Good morning, everyone. I'm Megan Fox. I write with pjmedia.com, and it's the day after the big verdict and Johnny's big win. And I know you're all feeling pretty good, but I want to warn you about what's about to happen. What is about to happen is the media is going to do its very best to take out this loss of their narrative and the Me Too narrative on the streamers, the YouTubers, the TikTokers, and those of you on social media who enjoyed our content. Um, you know, a lot of us took a lot of personal time and dedication in order to cover this event in a way that we felt is better than what the mainstream media can do. It's certainly more entertaining. We have a lot more fun, and we are much more accurate. And in fact, to be completely honest, the Wrap just had a ridiculous article, and in it, it said this. It was a legal triumph so stunning and unexpected, cable news commenters across the dial were left gaping in slack-jawed astonishment. Johnny Depp won. Nobody saw that coming. Are they kidding? We saw it coming. We've been telling you for a very long time that he very well could win this case. And we saw, especially in the last days of the trial, that, oh my goodness, this is not going well for Amber Heard. And she could very well be found to have acted with malice, and he win all three counts. I predicted he was going to win all three counts, and sure enough, he did. So who was wrong? Who was slack-jawed with shock? Certainly not those of us on YouTube who've been informing you from the beginning. All right, let's go to what's happening now. Elaine Bredehoft. She made the rounds on the morning show on CBS, some morning show, I don't know what it's called, CBS Good Morning or the Today Show. I don't know. I don't follow these things. I don't watch them because I don't like the mainstream press because they lie to you. But let's see, Elaine Bredehoft making excuses for her client, and now I am feeling, frankly, a little annoyed that I stood up for Elaine and I said, well, she just has a bad client and she did the best she could. If I were her, I'd be quiet right about now. But let's hear what Elaine had to say.
Today, this seems to be a huge victory for Johnny Depp this morning.
Yeah, a major setback for women, for women
What?
inside the courtroom and outside the courtroom.
Because
Basically what this said, Amber had an enormous amount of evidence, although a lot of it was suppressed in this case.
Okay, stop. Wait a minute. An enormous amount of evidence. If she had had an enormous amount of evidence, the jury would have believed it. But her evidence was absolute crap. Remember her evidence? Let me remind you. Shall I remind you of what her evidence of a severe beating and ripped out hair looked like? Yeah, right here. Look to the left. The picture on the left is Amber Heard's supposed evidence that her hair was ripped out at the root and bloody and pussy. The middle picture is my perfectly healthy scalp, and the one on the right is Gadfly's perfectly healthy scalp. And you can't tell the difference between any of these pictures. That's the mountain of evidence that she had. It was garbage evidence. Let's move on, Elaine. And I can't believe she's still telling this story.
As opposed to the UK. But look at all the women who have no evidence.
Okay, she just said that evidence was suppressed in this case, that it was kept out. And in the UK, there was all this other evidence that would have proven that Amber was the one, she was the victim. That's not true. The evidence in the UK that was kept out of this trial was mostly in Johnny's favor. People who have studied the UK case have said over and over that it was mostly in Johnny's favor that got kept out. When she goes into medical records that she claims were kept out of this trial, she then spills the beans. It's not medical records like she went to be hospitalized for some lacerations or bruises or punching or loose teeth or whatever. It's therapist notes, therapy records. So again, it's just some person that Amber spewed her lies to. This is so maddening. Moving on. Let's continue.
All these women who suffer from domestic violence, domestic abuse, they don't have evidence. And basically what this jury said is unless you pull out your cell phone and you tape record your spouse beating you, You're out of luck.
But Elaine, I think it was bigger than that because
Wait. But she did pull out her cell phone and she recorded hours and hours and hours of so-called evidence. And in her own evidence, she was proven to be the abuser, the aggressor, the one mocking, the one hitting, the one throwing pots and pans. Literally, Elaine, what you're saying makes no sense. We saw the evidence. She literally pulled out her cell phone. She took pictures of herself. She took pictures of supposed damage. She took videos of him slamming cabinets. But what she didn't have in all those hours of evidence, she didn't have one shred of evidence that he ever hit her, that he ever abused her. Not a shred. On the other hand, her own evidence showed that she abused him. Come on now. Come on now, Elaine. And also, I would like to read to you an email that I got this morning, because I'm getting these all day long, every day, from real abuse victims. Jennifer sent me an email that said, "Hello. My name is Jennifer, and I wanted to tell you that I watched you yesterday on the Ricada Law YouTube channel, and your passion came through. I have that same passion, and I would like to tell you my story of domestic abuse. First, if not for my own Dr. Curry, I would not even these years later be able to write this. My husband has broken 4 of my fingers, and one of my fingers on my left hand is still deformed because of it. I was knocked down the stairs when about 6 months pregnant with my middle child. I have been slapped more times than I can remember. I have been drugged by my hair. I was finally able to escape, and 6 months later, I got my kids. Today, I'm remarried to a fantastic man. I will, however, take those memories with me for life. One final point. My husband never put his hands on me while under the influence of alcohol or other drugs. He was cold sober. The thing about what Amber Heard did that upsets me is she weaponized my nightmare for revenge. A person that can do this is simply a monster. As someone that was put through living hell, I know better. I'm positive my medical file is several inches thick. One more point. My husband was right-handed. When he landed a blow, it was to the left side of my body. I think Johnny Depp is right-handed. He is. Generally speaking, any bruise on her face would be on the left side. Amber Heard is a liar. It makes me sick to see how she has weaponized domestic abuse and used politics for revenge. That's a real abuser. I'm sorry, a real victim of domestic violence. That's a woman who knows what domestic violence is. And so for Elaine to continue this narrative, to say that she speaks, that Amber speaks for these women who have been abused, the women are saying, oh, no, you don't. My inbox is full of these. Maybe one day, maybe I should do an entire video of you know what, if you're out there and you want to send me your story, if you want to tell me about your domestic abuse and how this situation, how Amber affected you, listening to her lies, my inbox is always open, and you can find it right here. I've got it. I can put it on the ticker. You can send me a tweet, a direct message on Twitter at Megan Fox Writer. You can find me there, or you can send me an email at meganfox.writer@protonmail.com. All right, moving on with more of Elaine Bredehoft's ridiculous statements to the press that I cannot believe she is making.
you had the evidence, as you say, but they did not believe her. Why do you think they did not believe her?
Because she was
I
lying.
think that a lot of that was that it was Johnny Depp. I think the celebrity status.
But she's a celebrity too.
And it's not only not
but she's
believing her.
yeah, but she's a celebrity too.
Right.
But you have to remember, it's a tale of two trials. All the evidence came in the UK. Mr. Depp brought that one. The burden of proof was on the son.
Okay, again, she's going back to the UK case. Let me make something clear. This is America, Elaine. We don't give a shit about the UK case, and we don't give a shit about the UK laws and their judicial process. It means nothing here. And in a minute, she's going to say that they tried to have this not even heard in court because he had already been heard in the UK. Is she under some kind of delusion that we are still a colony? What? What is happening? I know enough about the legal system to tell you that it doesn't mean jack shit what happens in the UK. That doesn't mean anything, Elaine. You should be a legal scholar at this point with how many times you've tried cases, and you don't know that English results have nothing to do with what happens in the United States of America? Amber Heard wrote that piece in the Washington Post and published it in Virginia, USA. That puts her square in the jurisdiction of American courts. Please, Elaine, please try. Just try to be a little honest about things you totally know. and this is not why I'm saying now she's as bad of a liar as Amber Heard. She's just as bad, and I gave her so much leeway. I was like, well, let's not treat Elaine badly because she has a bad client. She did the best she could, but here she is on your television set trying to tell you that something that happened in the UK means jack shit in America. Yeah, it doesn't, Elaine. We kicked England out of this place 250 years ago. We're done with them. Period. Okay. I didn't even get there yet, so I'm ahead of myself.
In the UK, because they had called him a wife beater and talked about the domestic violence.
Yeah, say it again. Say it again, Elaine. In America, go ahead and say that again. Call him a wife beater. Wow.
He had his opportunity to tell the truth then. And a 3-week trial, he lost.
No. He did not have the ability to tell his story. It was not televised. It was not broadcast through the lying press. The press didn't report it properly. They didn't, because it was literally against the press. He was suing the press in the UK. You think they gave him a fair shot? Do you think that they put his story out in their articles? Do you think the Sun reported on that case properly? Don't make me laugh, Elaine.
Judge found 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence. And that came out November 2, 20.
She lied. Amber lied. The judge, for whatever reason, found that there was some kind of, he just believed her, I guess. The judge believed her. Maybe he wanted to take a ride. I don't know why, but I don't really care what a UK judge did. I believe in the American judicial system. I believe in a jury of your peers. I believe that you have a right to have a jury of your peers decide in a case like this, in a defamation case. I do not believe whatever the UK judge decided, and neither do the rest of the Americans or either the rest of the world. We have a lot of viewers here from around the world who have been very interested in our American judicial process through this. And I think it's been a wonderful thing, an absolutely wonderful thing to have people from around the world be able to get a look inside our courtrooms here in America to see what makes America so great. And one of the things that makes America so great is that we do not, our lives are not dependent on one judge. We get to have a jury of our peers look at the evidence, use their common sense, and say, no, we do not believe this story. Here's your life back, Johnny. I'm so mad at this woman.
2020. We weren't allowed to tell the jury that.
Well, it's a different system. And
we weren't allowed to tell the jury that he lost in a UK court? You weren't allowed to tell the jury that? You know why, Elaine? And you do know why. So quit lying. Because UK courts have nothing to do with American courts. A decision that was made in another country cannot be used as a basis for our laws. You know why? Because they have different laws and we are not subject to them. We're not subjects to the crown. Get wrecked, Elaine. You know you're lying. This is what's killing me. She knows she's lying.
the judge, it wasn't a jury, it was a judge. The judge said it was substantially true. And that is significant, and I think surprised a lot of legal analysts. But, you know, in this case, the jury...
Yeah, it surprised a lot of legal analysts because the legal analysts who looked at the UK case were like, what the fuck is this judge doing? How does he find substantially true in all of this mess? That's why a lot of legal analysts were shaking their heads after the UK case, because American legal analysts were looking at it going like, no, we don't think so. We think that was a terrible decision.
not only didn't believe Amber Heard, but in ruling that she acted with actual malice, that means she had the intent to cause harm, right? That's a pretty high standard to have proven.
Yeah, it's a very high standard, but we said it could happen, and it did happen. If you've been watching LawTube, if you've been watching my channel, if you've been watching Ricada Law, we all knew it could happen. And the only people surprised were people not paying attention.
And it's pretty amazing since the op-ed never even mentioned Mr. Depp.
Oh, here we go. A jury unanimously found that the article clearly inferred or implied, that was the language, that she was talking about Johnny Depp. Who else was she talking about when she says, I was a victim of domestic abuse? 2 years ago, I became the voice of domestic abuse. Why? Why? Because of who? Everybody knew. And in fact, the USA Today testimony by the ACLU about the USA Today article was put the nail right in that coffin, because USA Today, a reporter there, read the Washington Post article and then rewrote the whole thing using Johnny Depp's name all over the place with the allegations. So if the USA Today believed it was about Johnny, so did everyone else.
You have to remember that. What they learned from the UK case is to demonize Amber, which is what they did, and to try to suppress as much of the evidence that came in the UK and did not come in the...
Hold on. Okay. Let's talk about evidence. So there are very good reasons why some evidence is kept out of court. And mostly because it's bullshit and it doesn't relate to what they're trying to prove. And you can talk to lawyers about this, and maybe Stephanie can come and answer it. We'll do I'm going to be doing a live stream, by the way, probably tomorrow, a celebratory wrap up with my panel, with Stephanie, my sister, who's a lawyer, with Sean Kohlmeyer, and with Gadfly, who is the creator of those awesome songs that we love to play here. And so the lawyers can talk about that in particular. But the evidence that was kept out of this case, there are very good reasons why it was kept out. We don't know all of those reasons because a lot of the suppressed evidence in the motions and whatever, I don't think they're open to the public. I don't think we can read them. We'll see them in any appeal or whatever. But from what I understand, the evidence that did not come into the trial here, that did go in the UK, was mostly on Johnny's side. He lost most of his motions for more evidence that would have proven even more his case. It's one of the things I need to do is catch up on what the hell happened in the UK trial, because I believe that what she's spewing here is totally incorrect.
United States. But the other problem is we had cameras in the courtroom. So here we had, not only did we have a group of Depp fans that were there every day, 100 were allowed in. They lined up at 1 o'clock in the morning for their wristbands to be in that courtroom. But we had everything on camera, and we had tremendous social media that was very, very, very much against Amber.
It was pointed out that that was the first time that a victim of sexual abuse had to testify on live television.
Okay, stop. That can't possibly be true. But anyway, cameras in courtrooms are absolutely essential to transparency in our system. I know too many people who have been victims of judicial abuse inside a courtroom that was closed to the public for me to ever say that cameras in a courtroom is a bad thing. And every time a liar gets caught, they want to say it shouldn't have been televised. Well, it has to be televised, Elaine, because this is America and we have a right to open courtrooms. And when all of the people want to see something in this country, guess who's in charge? We are. We're the boss. We supervise not only the executive branch of government and the legislative branch of government, but we are the supervisors of the courts. We are the supervisors of the judicial system. And no smarmy lawyer is going to make me stop saying it. We belong in there, Elaine. And we need to see how you behave, how the judge behaves, how the jury behaves, and because how else are the people supposed to make decisions about our judicial system? How else are we supposed to know how to vote? How else are we supposed to know when to go to our legislators and say, hey, there's some shit going on in the justice system and you need to take care of? How else are we supposed to know if you close the doors and create star chambers? Or worse, you only let credentialed members of the corporate press inside so they can filter the information through them to us and only tell us what they want us to know, which, if you had been reading the corporate press on top of reading me, you would see the stark contrast between what they wrote and what I wrote. What they wrote led you to believe that Amber Heard was a victim. So if you only read them, you would be shocked, just like the people at the Wrap. You would be shocked that Johnny came away with a huge win. But if you were reading me, an independent media person, if you were watching me, if you were reading my articles, you know damn well that Johnny was going to win. And you know why? Because she was proven to be a liar on the stand multiple times. I have written 2 articles about all her lies, which you can read on pjmedia.com. Please do go and sign up. And if you sign up for VIP for my exclusive stuff, you can get a discount by using my code FOX and get access to my weekly podcast as well. All right. So moving on. I think I've gone on enough of a rant there. You know how I feel about open courtrooms. They are essential to freedom.
And I fought hard and lost that battle.
And you should.
It should not have happened.
So
No, yes, it should have. It should have happened. The judge was 1,000% right. Open courtrooms are essential to judicial justice in America. Sorry, Elaine, you lose. Get wrecked.
I am a former NFL player, and after a hard loss, it's easy to wake up and point to the other side. Oftentimes, I realized the better thing to do was to look in the mirror. What mistakes did I make as a player?
Look at Elaine's face. None of these people on this panel believe her. This is hilarious. Not even the media, not even these CBS people, which cracks me up. I haven't even seen this whole thing.
What mistakes did our coaching staff make? And then how can we improve from there? Do you feel like you guys made any mistakes along?
Oh my God. He's calling her out. He's calling out the legal team. And they did make plenty of mistakes. They did. I need to write an article about that. All the mistakes that Elaine made. Oh, I'm going to make myself a note. Write article about how many mistakes Elaine made. Uh-huh. Got to do that.
The way do you feel like Amber made a mistake while she was on the stand? Because you're saying it's the celebrity, it's Johnny, it's the people who support him. But what about you and your team?
Well, and that's it.
Oh, God bless this man. I don't know who he is, but God bless him for asking that question, sir. You're a hero.
Excellent question. And
People who say, that's an excellent question. They're buying time. She doesn't have an answer for this. She's buying time.
say, and Amber even said on the stand, I am not perfect. I am.
What? She claimed that. But she literally tried to sell to a jury that when she does drugs, it's a cuddle puddle. She used the phrase cuddle puddle when she was doing all the same drugs she accused him of doing that turned him into a rage maniac. She wanted a jury to believe that he turned into a rage maniac while she was just a loving, happy, laughy drug, she called them. Remember that? Elaine, she tried to turn herself into Saint Amber. It was so bad we were calling her Saint Amber. Come on.
I'm a human being. These people were giving her death threats. They threatened to.
Bullshit. Show us the death threat. Now she's going to say they threatened to microwave her baby. Well, yeah, trolls on the internet say really shitty things. Nobody here has ever said anything like that. And nobody here wants anybody to be harmed in any way. And no one on LawTube said anything like that. So to pretend as if some trolls on the internet are the same thing as the social media coverage of this or the YouTube coverage of this is totally false and defamatory, Elaine.
Microwave her baby. This is the kind of social media she was getting. So are any of us perfect? No. Is there something else we feel we should have done? Yes, absolutely.
Maybe you shouldn't have let her get on the stand for the second time in a row when she got wrecked by Camille, because 5 more lies came out during that testimony. 5 more.
I redo my closings 100 times afterwards, whether I win or lose. That's part of being a good.
Elaine, you might want to work on this. All of this that you were doing at the end, like you were conducting an orchestra or trying to bring the energy up in the room, that just looked nuts. So next time you do a closing, keep your arms down because you looked crazy.
Lawyer, a good trial lawyer is,
Right.
There's always something. But I think that there were a lot of influences here that were beyond our control. And I think the social media, it was like a Roman Colosseum.
They love saying that. They love saying that. Here's my response to that. The mob is a real thing. And the reason why we have a judicial system, why we have a police force, why we have these things in law to keep criminals from doing what they do and to lock people up who are dangerous and to hold a judicial system that holds people accountable for bad behavior. The reason we have those things is because of the mob. If we did not have those things, there would be a lot of capital punishment. A lot. Like, you hurt a kid, you find a rope and get a tree. Because that's what the mob wants. The mob wants to enact justice, harsh justice against people who do things like Amber Heard did. She should feel lucky that the only thing she had to endure was a little social media razzing. Because if there were no court system, if there were no jury system, if there were nothing to hold her accountable, yeah, she'd get stoned in the street. Yes, that's true. So she should be lucky that the social media aspect is just like a Roman Colosseum, but not actually the real thing. Without our justice system, yeah, people would gather in a stadium and watch her be fed to lions. Yes, that's true. That's true. So to compare a thing, though, to someone being capitally punished, is that a phrase? For someone receiving capital punishment for something, as in a Roman Colosseum type, to compare social media mockery to that where no one actually dies is so irresponsible. It is exactly not the Roman Colosseum, Elaine, because at the Roman Colosseum, the crowd watched people get ripped to pieces by wild animals. So, mocking someone with words are not violence, Elaine. And so words cannot possibly be equated to the Roman Colosseum.
Is the best way to describe the atmosphere here. And I have to believe that the jury, even though they're told not to go and look at anything, they have weekends, they have families, they have
they were not
media.
sequestered.
This is so wrong for a lawyer, an officer of the court, to now try to smear the jury, to erase their weeks of service and their weeks of dedication to this by insinuating that they disregarded the judge's instructions with no proof at all. How did Stephanie put it? She called me. She was really mad. She said, I wrote it down. She's impugning the integrity of the jury with no proof. This is something that lawyers should not do. I think she should be written up on an ethics complaint for this. What proof is she offering that the jury was compromised like that? Now, we have made commentary that we believed it would be very hard for them to stay away from the news, but we have no evidence to suggest that they didn't. And she, as the attorney, is now impugning their character with no evidence. She offers no evidence for this. Let's listen to the rest of
They were
this.
not sequestered.
And the 10-day period we had, how could they not have been influenced?
But Elaine, for most people watching this trial, and a lot of people, as you know, got huge views. It just seemed to be so messy and salacious and so tawdry on both sides. And I think for a lot of
Not really. I hate this on both sides argument, whoever this person is. I don't like it because here's the thing. The tawdry allegations that she's talking about were brought 100% by Amber Heard against Johnny Depp. The only salacious detail that he brought to the mix was the pooping in the bed incident, which was already out there because it was in the UK trial. And he was telling the truth. And it was backed up by by two witnesses, the cleaning lady and the chauffeur, who he testified that Amber told him she did it. So the salaciousness, though, if you want to go into salacious details, the only salacious details I heard were from Amber. And I don't like giving equal blame to both parties here for salacious details when it was Amber making up stories about bottles, Amber making up stories about beatings that went on for hours when she couldn't even show you a scratch, Amber who said she was dragged over broken glass, Amber who said that she was attacked in a trailer. It was her that with all of the salacious details, not Johnny. So I don't want to hear this from you, canary yellow woman, whoever you are. I don't watch TV, you guys. I don't know these people.
The people from the outside looking in thought both of them were not telling the truth, and that they had both they mutually abused each other.
What? Nobody believed that. Nobody believed that. Everyone believed she was lying. Johnny was telling the truth. No one believed. Not one person in the thousands of people that tuned into my live stream, not one person was like, I think they're both lying. Oh my God, they could not possibly both be lying. They had two completely opposing stories. Someone is lying. It wasn't Johnny.
Do you not believe that that was the case?
No, and that's one of the many misnomers. The way that Depp's team approached this was based on ignorance of domestic violence. It completely ignored the cycle of violence and just said, oh, she wouldn't have done this if he had been hitting her. That was their approach.
So you thought that they weren't.
How does she know what the jury's approach? Well, oh, she's saying that the lawyer's approach was that, look, there's plenty of evidence, documented evidence about how abuse victims behave. She didn't behave like any of them. Abuse victims are terrified of their abuser. She wasn't scared of him. That's how Camille nailed her. And victims of real abuse have told me the same thing.
Weren't fighting fair?
Correct. I don't think they were fighting fair.
What? You don't think that Johnny's team fought fair? Boy, is that insulting.
I think
Absolutely.
Amber Heard is, in fact, a survivor of domestic
Yes,
violence.
I absolutely believe that. And there's a tremendous amount of evidence, much of which.
A tremendous amount of evidence. Now, this is much of which did not get into this case because it was all in the UK. Oh my God. Fuck this woman.
Did not come into this trial, did come into the UK trial. We even had more evidence. We had medical records. We had mental health records that went back to 2012.
Again, when she says we had medical records, then she says mental health records that go back to 2012. She is not talking about emergency room records like you would have if you had all your fingers broken by your husband, like Jennifer, who emailed me. And she says she has a stack of medical records. She's talking about Amber going into a therapist and making up stories. There's no way for a therapist to corroborate that. The therapist's job is to believe her because they're giving her therapy. Therapeutic response is to say, I believe you. But then when you ask me to go after somebody criminally, well, that's when I'm going to ask you for some evidence.
That were contemporaneous. We had text messages from Mr. Depp's assistant saying, when I told him that he had kicked you, he cried.
I read that text message, and I believe that Amber was gaslighting him like she gaslit him all the time. If Johnny was having problems with detox and was unconscious a lot of the time, is it possible that she told people that he did these things and then they kind of believed it and were like, hey, Johnny, you did this thing. She says you did this to her. And wouldn't he, of course, say, I'm so sorry? Is she gaslight? She could have been gaslighting him. That might have never happened. There were people on that plane. Nobody on that plane where she said he kicked her. There was no eyewitness account. How is that possible?
How is she today, Elaine? How is she today? What is her next move?
She's right. Well, her next move is appeal. There were a number.
Heartbroken.
She is heartbroken.
For a person who says, I just want to be left alone, I want him to leave me alone, then she should take her $2 million and shut up, shouldn't she? But no, she's going to appeal.
And one of the first things that she said when she came back from the verdict, when we went into the conference room, was, I am so sorry to all these women.
She said that?
Yes, she felt.
She should be sorry. She should be sorry, but not for the reason why she's saying she's sorry. She should be sorry to the women who she has damaged because she lied about abuse.
Like she had let down all of these women because she had more evidence than most people do.
And no, she didn't. No way. I've seen the evidence that other people have. It's far better than hers. Remember Elaine from the chat? Elaine sent us a picture of her abuse, and she was beaten by her husband with fists, and it was absolutely believable. Way better evidence than anything Amber Heard put out there. She did not have a mountain of evidence, and that's why this verdict went the way it did. Amber had shit evidence.
and yet they still didn't believe her.
They didn't
Elaine,
believe her
Charles.
because the evidence was so bad.
Listen, Bredehoft, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
All right, that was that. So please let me know in the comments below what you thought of that ridiculous interview. And I'm going to get back to work. I've got more articles coming out. I'm working on one explaining the verdict, explaining the split verdict right now. I've come to believe that this was a compromise. I've been told by lawyers I trust that this was a compromise decision, that the jury must have had somebody on it who was siding with Amber or going towards that way, and the only way that they could get that person to consent to a unanimous decision was to throw them a bone. So they did, and made the award negligible. And I think that that decision was wrong, but if that's how they had to get out of there, sometimes juries do that. So I'm working on that article. That should be coming out today. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of Elaine. All right, everybody, take care.